28th of June. And the center of Moscow has been blown up. In the center.
So just now there was an explosive vibration from a UAV. Everyone woke up. We don't even know yet which tower was hit.
Ukrainian ballistics are striking the Kremlin. Or rather, they've blown it up again.
The heart of the capital residential complex. There's Moscow City.
I caught that on camera. Third phase of special operation web has begun. Quiet. Yeah, unbelievable. This situation is truly fucked. All Moscow airports are now completely closed, causing significant disruption. Sabotage and shooting near the Kremlin. Muscovites are in panic. Evacuation has started. What's going on? There are people sleeping there after work, families, kids. The SBU is preparing new acts of sabotage on Russian territory. Moscow, St. Petersburg, get ready to evacuate. We'll discuss all this with Oleksandr Demchenko right now. So there was a missile strike.
I've been saying for a long time that a large-scale attack has already begun from the Ukrainian armed forces and Ukrainian special service. Massive acts of sabotage are ongoing. I assert that Mariuk special operation, soon there will be a third phase of this special operation, and we will soon see another outcome because there will be a response. Both Zelensky, Mariuk, and Budanovte all go off the leash after every such attack on Kiev and Odessa, on children. You know, I watched it today. Those were horrific scenes. Our whole city, the capital, was in flames. And of course, when I look at that destroyed building, where it collapsed half the entrance, an entire entrance really, half the building just fell from the 9th floor down to the basement. I remembered where I had seen a similar photo. 99, September, Moscow, Kashirka. Exactly the same photo. Just open the photo and take a look. So the methods of terror against the population that Putin wants to bring to heel haven't changed, nor have those of Lubyanka. What worries me, Dasha, is something else. The fact that we are carrying out a series of sabotage operations and special missions, that's clear. Ukraine is disrupting the summer offensive, and it will stall for Vladimir Putin. What worries me is something else. I suspect that now the Russian Federation will stage a provocation either in Kaliningrad or in the Baltic Sea. I suspect that the Russian Federation might blow up American military ships in the Baltic Sea in the near future. Just yesterday, there was a very strange piece of news, but it got lost in the shuffle. And it came not from just anyone, but from none other than the head of Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, Naryshkin, who is one of the secret negotiators conducting talks with the Americans and their accomplices through closed channels. So Naryshkin and his Foreign Intelligence Service, in other words, Russian intelligence officers announced that supposedly Ukraine and Britain are preparing a series of attacks on American military ships of the US Baltic Fleet in the Baltic Sea, the waters of the Baltic Sea. The torpedoes are already ready, and that one of the torpedoes is supposed to ram one of the American warships. And that supposedly, afterwards, Ukraine and Britain want to pin it on Russia in order to accuse her. So we are looking at the situation in exactly the opposite way. The Russian Federation is planning in these days, in these weeks, to carry out a series of sabotage acts, provocations, and explosions in the Baltic Sea, possibly on the territory of Kaliningrad, because for several weeks in a row, Patrushev has been shouting that NATO forces will strike Kaliningrad with missiles in the near future. They are testing the waters. I wouldn't be surprised if they even try to destroy some American ship. Although, to be honest, that's a huge, huge risk. They should immediately get their hands slapped by Trump for that. But then again, when has Trump ever slapped Putin's hands? You can't even slap him on the cheek. But you see, Dasha, here's the thing. If they're already talking about this, we should expect a major sabotage, a big provocation against Ukraine, because they want to pin everything on Ukraine in order to accuse us. To make Trump distance himself from Ukraine, withdraw from any negotiations, and stop helping Ukraine. I've been telling you for a long time, and I've told many of my colleagues, that this is the goal, the main goal of the special operation, the global special operation of Vladimir Putin, which began right after Trump's inauguration. And the goal of this special operation is extremely simple: to get the United States out of Ukraine. This is what concerns me right now, just as much as the situation in the war between Iran and Israel, which will significantly, very significantly affect the entire Russian-Ukrainian war in the coming days and weeks. The war, if now, and I have a feeling about this, that Donald Trump is ready to turn a blind eye to the elimination of the head of Iran, Ayatollah Khomeini, and Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, has already said that, in principle, this is one of the possible options, the elimination of Iran's leader. If this happens, and it is a dangerous precedent, then we ourselves will find ourselves in a situation where Putin could also be removed. Then, over time, the Americans might give the go-ahead for Putin's elimination, give the green light, because it would then be demonstrated and appear to everyone that the only way out of the current situation, when you are facing an enemy who surpasses you in terms of forces, resources, population, geography, and so on, and who is an aggressor with a nuclear warhead, a dummy warhead, like Iran or like Putin is, that the only option is elimination. And then everything will start to shake, both outside of Russia and within Russia itself. And that elite which has crawled under the baseboard and is afraid and is just sitting there doing nothing in Russia will stop doing nothing and will come out from under the baseboard. In other words, we will see a completely different scenario. Everything happening in Iran right now is a huge black swan for Putin. You shouldn't look at this in isolation. The drone program, the ballistic program, Vladimir Putin is very worried that if the Iranian leader is taken out now, then they'll come for him next and everything will fall apart. And if Maliu continues to carry out such special operations, and he will, together with Budanovon or two more special operations like Webb, and everything in Russia will start to tremble, everything will become unstable. That's the first story. The second, if Iran collapses now, and you can see from Tehran, there are lines of cars stretching for hundreds of kilometers. People are leaving the city en masse, abandoning it. Trump even said, leave. Why did Trump say that? The American army, I have a journalist's intuition about this. The American army will enter the war. In the near future, there are just too many American refueling planes and reconnaissance aircraft in the air. And refueling planes and reconnaissance aircraft are extremely valuable assets. They don't usually send those up just to fly around for no reason. These are the planes that support the army's further advance. So there are so many of them that most likely this is all going to happen. Moreover, the former US Secretary of Defense said, the American army is at a state of combat, heightened combat readiness, and is ready at Trump's slightest command to go and destroy Iran. When Trump said leave Iran, that's a very clear signal. The Americans in the near future, if a deal isn't signed today, if a miracle doesn't happen, will start bombing Iran. And this is also a big signal for Putin, and a negative one at that. It shows what awaits him, what consequences he might face if Russia weakens. And it will weaken, because there's one more thing. If Iran gets bombed now, the entire south of Russia will go up in flames. Central Asia, the South Caucasus, the North Caucasus, and the south of Russia. And Putin doesn't have a second army. He has nothing to counter this with. He'll have to decide what to do. Keep fighting against Ukraine, move towards the Baltic states, which he dreams of, and hopes to realize this fall and winter or defend his southern borders from a more dangerous enemy. From a more dangerous enemy. An enemy that will definitely want to seize certain Russian territory. Because neither Ukraine nor the NATO countries want that. But those who are there and from where they will come do want it.
Friends, please like this video. Write in the comments what you think about this situation and about Oleksandr Demchenko's analysis. Tell us where you're watching from, and leave a few warm words in support of Ukraine. Sasha, right now we're seeing some very alarming signs. We see how Israel is successfully attacking Iran. America is joining in on this. Israel is using 200 fighter jets, but at the same time, Trump is not providing weapons to Ukraine. The meeting between Zelensky and Trump did not take place. And as I understand it, the US budget has not allocated any military aid for Ukraine for next year. President Zelensky wants them to sell us weapons, but we aren't even being sold any. And Trump is not imposing sanctions. Does this mean that what is possible with Iran today is simply impossible with Russia because Trump is an ally of Putin?
That's not the case. Look, Putin will have no other option but to help Iran. Iran is already being helped by Pakistan and China. They are sending shipments, military shipments with missiles. These are the very missiles that are now striking Israel, coming from Pakistan and China. Iran already has few missiles left. A third of their missile launchers have been destroyed. And this whole situation is being further pursued by the Israeli army. Shipments are already going from China and Pakistan. North Korea will also start sending them. It will, and they will come from Russia as well. Shoigu is already in North Korea now. That's one thing. And secondly, they will also come from Russia. Putin has no other option but to send his forces to help Iran. He has a choice, either Trump or China with the Iranians. There is no other way.
Right.
What is Trump offering him? Come back to the fold. And China tells him, stay in our fold. That's the choice Vladimir Putin has. But China gives money. China provides resources. China supplies weapons and technology. And Trump doesn't give any of that. That's why Vladimir Putin will send some forces, mercenaries, little green men, instructors, some military intelligence units or certain army units individually to Iranian territory. It will be a drop in the ocean, just a drop in the ocean. Some weapons, the Pantsir S-1 is already there. Shoigu brought an anti-missile system. There are several of them in Iran. Shoigu brought a gift. You may have noticed that Putin is hesitating, he's stalling. The Iranian parliament, the head of the Iranian parliament has only just now sent the defense agreement with Putin to the president of Iran for signature. Why? Putin says apparently it hasn't been signed. I can't give you anything yet. You haven't signed, you haven't ratified the agreement yet. Ratify it, sign it, and then I'll think about it. He's stalling. He understands that there is no good choice for him here. Either support Trump and turn away from China, or support China and turn away from Trump. And now, attention, here's the question. Let's imagine a situation. Putin tells Trump to go to hell. Having supported Iran, he sends in troops amid the escalation at a time when the Americans and Israelis, let's say, are bombing Tehran and trying to destroy the underground Iranian nuclear weapons and are searching for the Ayatollah all over Tehran or all over Iran. Or Putin takes Ayatollah Khomeini with him to Moscow. Let's imagine this situation. What will Trump do? Will he just hand it over to Putin? No, he won't give it away this time. Not because he doesn't want to, but simply because he won't be forgiven for it. So, what's the way out of this situation? It means Ukraine needs to be given weapons. Whether he likes it or not, he'll have to do it. That's why I predict, I'm forecasting, I'm making this prediction. In the near future, we will see catastrophic bombings of Iran if it doesn't agree. Right now, in the coming days, to a lightning fast deal with Trump, a deal that will be unfavorable for them, for Iran. We will see Russia's involvement in this war. It has no other choice. Either enter Iran now, or your southern border will be completely on fire. And you'll have to spend your resources and manpower, your soldiers, just to contain the massive flow of millions of refugees, terrorists, saboteurs, and all sorts of unsavory elements. Or enter Iran. At the same time, we will see a complication and deterioration in the relationship between Trump and Putin, which will ultimately end up being positive for us, in part due to America helping Ukraine under Trump. But unlike Biden, these guys will give everything. If the issue becomes very acute, and the question directly concerns the security of the states and the security of their allies in the Middle East, that's why I wouldn't look at the situation as either negative or positive in a one-sided way, for example. It will be a very difficult, complicated process. Everything there will take a long time. Don't listen to those who say that everything will end tomorrow. It won't end. In the Middle East, in Iran, everything will drag on for a long time. And Putin's comrades will end up in Iran. And Naryshkin and Patrushev are carrying out terror in the Baltic Sea, in Kaliningrad. But the question is, Dasha, what will Putin do? That's the main question. What will Putin do if he is cornered? So Vladimir Putin is cornered. Suddenly he develops enuresis. His temperature spikes. He's scared. He already wakes up in a cold sweat. He's anxious. He called Trump. He was begging him through tears not to kill Khomeini. That's why he called. He didn't say, listen, Trump, let's leave something tasty in Moscow, period. No, he called to kill so that Khomeini will not be killed. He understands that he is next after him. Here's the problem. What is he doing? Two scenarios. Nothing is needed here. Two scenarios. First, he begins to organize mass terrorist attacks in Moscow and St. Petersburg. It wasn't for nothing that we were shown today, a cosplay by the Russian army of Moscow from 1999. He begins to carry out terrorist attacks in his own area. Now he's going to blow up Ostankino. Now he'll blow up Sokolniki. He'll blow up the Moscow metro to hell. Now he'll blow up Lushniki, for example. The State Department store, right? Now he started. He'll blow up residential buildings. He'll blow up Reshistenka churches and so on. Anything just to keep his power. That's the first scenario. He's already started doing this. We've only seen this so far in the border regions. Bryansk region, Kursk, and Voronezh regions. When he started blowing up his own citizens, car bridges, railway tracks, and killing his own civilians. The train, Bryansk region, well, Google it, remember all these events. Dasha and I discuss this all the time. That's the first story. He will carry out terrorist attacks now, in the near future. The second story, if he's cornered, he'll protect his own. If the elite starts to wonder, why do we even need him? If we're having these problems with him again, if they raise their heads again, and for him, the elite is the problem, not the Russian people, who can just be thrown into the fire. He doesn't even want to take back his own corpses. He sends the bodies of his own Russians to Ukraine so that they get buried here. He mixes everything up. He hands over both fallen Ukrainian soldiers and his own, just so he doesn't have to bury them, just so no one sees the numbers, so no one finds out. And what will he do? He will destroy his own people. And Stalin won't even come close to what he'll do. There will be disposal, there will be explosions, there will be liquidation. Patrushev, Shoigu, all those comrades. He will kill them, simply destroy them. And they know it. That's why Shoigu has so much security 14 guys follow him around. You understand? They know it. He will simply and utterly destroy them, completely and without hesitation, to hold on to power, especially if he truly realizes that something isn't going his way at all, in any conceivable manner. The most important thing is power. War for the sake of power. Holding on to Iran for the sake of power. North Korean dogs for the sake of power. Lukashenko with Belarus, threat to Europe for the sake of power. The special operation with Trump is for the sake of power, and so on. He doesn't care about anyone else. He doesn't care about Russians, about the destruction of civilians in his own country, about the terrorist attacks he'll keep carrying out again and again, about airplanes. He doesn't care about anything. The main thing is to hold on to power. You see?
You said something very important, right? Information that Russia will blow up American ships.
Yes.
So what could the mechanism be? And will Putin be able to convince Trump that it was Europe or Ukraine who did it? And how do you think Trump would react to that?
I can already picture this scenario. Well, they blew up my Nord Stream 2 with your support, didn't they? Now they're after your ships. You see, Donald, the British are deceiving you. Don't trust the British. Double check them. Never mind that you have the Five Eyes intelligence, the Five Eyes system. Never mind that you have constant data exchange with the British. The main thing is, listen to me, Donald, and abandon Ukraine. What else is important? So there's not even any need to think here. That's all there is to it. This is like a trial balloon from Odorishkin. Will they swallow it or not? Will they notice or not? What will the bigwigs say? What will America say? What will Putin say? Let's test it out. Patrushev tested it. Now I'll test it. And at the same time, let's prepare some massive sabotage. A special operation in Kaliningrad or in the Baltic Sea. And if not, against the American fleet, because we're still afraid, right? Donald is a bit crazy. He's lost his marbles a long time ago. So there are other vessels, other ships, military fleets of other countries. You can mess around an endless number of times. They themselves talk about this. This is a clear story. Here, Putin has another failure. He wanted to be a mediator, an intermediary between Trump and Iran. He wanted to, right? He did, yes. So what? Where is the mediation? There is no mediation. No mediation. And they can't now trade Ukraine for Iran. But here's another point. You probably noticed an important piece of news from Masha Zakharova. This lady came out in a half-drunken stupor and declared that, the Americans won't fly to Moscow. The Americans won't fly to Moscow. Rubio won't fly. Wittkov won't fly to Moscow. They don't want to restore Russian embassies and consulates. They don't want these diplomatic institutions to operate on US territory. And why don't they want to? Obviously, they don't want Russian agents. So what happened? It turns out Putin's services aren't needed. And why did Putin strike Kyiv today? To show Donald, you refused me. You're not coming, not sending your people. Here you go. Then I'll bomb Kyiv. You're going to bomb Iran, and I'll bomb Kyiv, Odessa, Zaporizhia with missiles, with my own forces. That's how he talks to them. He speaks in this language. You just have to read it that way. Did he get offended? Donald refused him. Take that, Donald. That's how it all happens. And as for him staging a provocation, how exactly? They've already said how Patrushev said that missiles would fly toward Kaliningrad. So there will be some missiles or explosions. And Narishkin said torpedoes would be launched at the ships. Well, they're already preparing something. They're preparing some kind of big explosion in the Baltic Sea, in the Baltic region. And I told you, remember about the sabotage of the Baltic fleet? Remember?
Yes.
I told you, when Mariuk was carrying out all those special operations, I said, look, next the Baltic fleet will be burning. So it looks like they've decided to get ahead of things and blow it up themselves. Well, let them just blow up their own. Let them get it mixed up. You understand? Can you imagine we wake up and the news is the Russians accidentally blew up their own fleet. There are no more ships left in the Baltic fleet. All of them have been sunk. Missiles are flying toward Kaliningrad. Russian ones, disaster. You know, Dasha, today I can just picture it, that just woken up face. I imagined it yesterday too, just this silly fantasy as well. That just woken up face, Olga Skabiva's just woken up face. She must have woken up in a cold sweat, can you imagine? She saw it, she and all those propagandists. She saw firsthand what could happen to her. What kind of ending can there be when the Israelis, in a targeted strike during the propaganda being broadcast by all those comrades from Iranian state television and radio, when the Israeli army struck the state television and radio building directly and took out the journalists, the propagandists, right there on the spot? I think that Skabeva and all her comrades saw this, were horrified, got scared, and realized that, aha, there is also this option for how things could end for them. Or they're not idiots. They understand perfectly well that if Malyuk Gotuch, if scooters are riding around Moscow, if trucks are driving all over Russia to Siberia and back, if the Pacific Fleet is already burning and the Crimean Bridge has been blown up 3 times, well, then the offices of certain comrades can also catch fire. They got really scared. I'm more than sure they're thinking about it. Even Vladimir Solovyov, who just a few years ago was saying live on air, if, he said, Iran attacks Israel, I'll take up a rifle and go defend Israel. That's what Vladimir Solovyov said. And now he comes out and says, why did they attack Iran? It's a good country, never bothered anyone. Can you imagine? Maybe we should send Rudolfovich over there to Iran, to the front lines, together with Shoigu.
I just pictured that scene. Sasha, you brought up a very important topic. This is what Israel did to Iranis, the elimination of more than 20 high-ranking military officials, essentially decapitating the entire military command. Only the Ayatollah himself is left after they killed 9 nuclear scientists who were developing.
Today, they killed the second chief of the general staff. Did you know that? The man didn't even have time to unpack his suitcase.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
He had just been appointed as chief of the general staff, and that's it. He was eliminated. He's gone.
Is it possible to carry out a similar special operation on Russian territory? And why can't our allies help us with this, in your opinion?
Because Israel had been preparing this special operation for years. Because for many years, Israel had been cultivating its agents on Iranian territory. Because in Iran, the population hates the authorities, despises them, spits on them. Because there have been demonstrations there for many, many years. Because there are torture and executions in Iran. Because there is an army of thugs there called the KGB, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Because Israel, for many, many years, and this didn't happen at the snap of Trump's fingers, but over a long, long time, Israel has been building shelters for its people in every apartment, in every house, developing its own anti-missile and air defense systems, creating its own drone programs, purchasing American aircraft, building its own planes, and ultimately developing its own intelligence service. And in the end, after several decades, let's say 15 to 20 years, they accomplished this and gained complete control over Iranian airspace. And now they can do whatever they want to do. The only thing they're missing is for Trump to provide them with bombs to destroy Iran's underground nuclear facilities. And Trump has probably already said, we won't give you the bombs, but we'll give you bombers with bombs. We can't hand over our technology. We'll just send the planes and blow to hell everything that's underground there. I'm telling you further, in the near future, the American military will enter the war. Iran will go up in flames. And after Iran, all of Central Asia, the Caucasus, and Russia will follow. And Putin knows this. And he knows that this is the end. He knows that this is the end. He knows that the end is coming for everything, for all his plans. And he won't have time to implement any of them. And this will directly affect the Russian-Ukrainian war. This is a black swan for Putin in the long run. And he will be forced to end everything, absolutely everything. Not because he wants to, but because soon he will have no other choice. Because the Americans are showing him, and they are showing the Chinese as well. Look, they say, guys, right now we're going to destroy this, and then we'll come for you. And it will all collapse like domino. If they don't unite, and that's also a scenario, and I'm betting heavily on it, Putin, the Chinese, and everyone else will now rush to defend Iran. And then the war will drag on for a long time. And that's a different scenario.
If Putin starts defending Iran, will his relationship with Trump change?
Well, yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. They will change. They'll have a falling out. And Trump will have to help Ukraine. He'll have to help Ukraine. And Ukraine will still have to continue the war with Russia. But Putin's situation will become much more difficult. Putin's situation will be much more complicated because he'll have several fronts at once. You see, he didn't expect Iran to be blown up. It hasn't been blown up since 1979. Somehow, they always managed to avoid all that. There were periods of escalation and so on, but nothing like this has happened before. Nothing like this has happened before. And now it has. Everyone was waiting, wondering when his black swan would arrive. It has arrived. So if the black swan has arrived now, I have no idea what will happen in August. August is the blackest month for Russia. Just a little more, and I don't know, we might wake up and Putin will be gone altogether.
Sasha, I got a message from Ruslan Kutayev, the president of the Assembly of the Peoples of the Caucasus, and then I saw it accordingly in Telegram channels that Kadirovs' men recorded a video appeal saying they are being sent to fight against Ukraine. As far as I understood, by force, they don't want to go, and they drew attention. They asked Ramzan Kadyrov to somehow help them. And this video appeal has spread all over social media. What is going on? The reasons why they are being sent to fight are not mentioned. I haven't delved deeply into this topic, but basically Kadyrov soldiers recorded an appeal to Ramzan Kadyrov asking him to save them. What is happening?
Chechens do not want to fight against Ukraine. Ukrainians fought together with Chechens against Putin's army, against Yeltsin's army. All of this happened. Most Chechens do not want to fight against Ukraine. And to be honest, we constantly come across, yes, these information streams, these news stories, where we are repeatedly told that the Chechens somehow haven't found their way, that Alaudinov somehow went around something, somehow didn't encounter the Ukrainian troops. It was the Russian troops who encountered the Ukrainian troops, not him. But the Chechen group didn't make it. Kadyrov didn't reach Prigozhin. Kadyrov also didn't reach Putin during Prigozhin's coup. They're waiting too. They're waiting for the outcome. Kadyrov is watching closely. He's a very experienced, very cunning player. He has an incredible political instinct. That's something you can't take away from him. And he sees, he observes. Have you noticed that Kadyrov has moved some of his assets abroad?
Yes.
He has. If everything is so good and cloudless in Russia, if nothing awaits Russia, if under Putin Russia will be Eden, why did Kadyrov take things out? It means it won't be. It means there are problems. It means there are risks. It means a war among the elites. It means showdowns and shootouts in the streets of Moscow and other major cities. It means the divvying up of everything. It means the destruction and repression of everyone. And possibly there could even be a situation where Putin can't protect Kadyrov, or doesn't want to, or Kadyrov doesn't want him to. No one, Dasha, listen. we are entering a very turbulent phase. We shouldn't separate Russia's war against Ukraine from Iran's war against Israel. After the 7th of October, 2023, it's the same war. After the Hamas attack on Israel, it's the same war, a big one. These are different fronts of this war, but it's the same war. And now, at this very moment, we are entering a crucial phase where the significant events currently unfolding in the Middle East will undoubtedly accelerate the ultimate endgame of the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. All intricate processes will inevitably speed up significantly. And very soon, we will clearly see the definitive outcome. We do not yet know precisely what that final outcome will be. And we do not know with certainty what will happen next. But we clearly understand that all processes have accelerated many times over. And the faster Trump and Israel deal with Iran now, the sooner Putin's end will come. All these regimes are interconnected, the Russian, Iranian, and Chinese. As soon as one collapses, the whole system will fall. But Donald Trump said it directly himself, let these kids play in the sandbox, meaning Ukraine and Russia. That's how he puts it, right? So he gave the green light after the strikes, after the operation, the special operation by Malyuk and the destruction of 41 aircraft, the Webb special operation in Russia, after the destruction of part of the Pacific Fleet, after the explosion of the Crimean Bridge. Trump said exactly this: I completely understand Putin, let him strike now. The problem is that during the time Putin was striking, a lot has changed. And now, yes, Putin is striking, but at the same time, Putin will also be helping Iran. And considering Trump's entourage, his pro-Israel circle, this is an absolutely dead-end negative situation for Putin. Why isn't Trump imposing sanctions now? Because he still wants to befriend Putin. Well, not exactly befriend, but become partners, resolve some issues, some business. For Trump, just like for Putin, Europe is an adversary. For Putin, an enemy. For Trump, an opponent. Trump needs the destruction of the European Union, an economic bloc, a very strong, self-sustaining bloc. Putin needs the European bloc to disappear and for NATO to be at least partially absent from European territory. He has said this directly. Get out, back to the borders of 1997. And he keeps saying it through various officials of his, right? That's why there are no sanctions. Trump needs to pull Putin away from China. Putin is not distancing himself from China, and it's unlikely he'll move away from there. Trump understands that all of this is a collective effort. But ultimately, he will now find himself in a situation where if Putin wages war against America, Dasha, you have to understand if Trump gets involved in the war now and Putin sends his support groups, even if it's just 10 people, if they get caught, well, that's already a matter of the security of the American army. Let me remind you what happened with Prigozhin's guy. 300 individuals who made the decision in Syria, specifically within Syria, to forcefully seize an American protected oil refinery, I believe, that was under the direct protection of American soldiers. They were all tragically shot from the air instantly. They were wiped out in 5 minutes, finished off. The same thing will happen to the Russian contingent. But that's not the point. By the way, the Americans did this in Afghanistan too. In Afghanistan, they did the same thing, sending stingers to the Mujahid. That's not the issue. The point is something else. If it becomes clear and obvious that Putin's mercenaries or little green men, whoever they may be, are trying to kill an American soldier, any US president, even if it's Donald Trump, will be forced under pressure from everyone in America to strike at Vladimir Putin. And then there will definitely be sanctions, weapons for Ukraine, special operations on Russian territory, mass sabotage and missile deliveries. And no one will utter a word anywhere, including in the White House, in the Oval Office. Everyone will crawl under the baseboard and stay silent. And that's exactly what will happen. That's where everything is heading. Why is everything heading in that direction? Because Vladimir Putin, like the Iranian Ayatollahs, is insane. Because if you have an authoritarian government and you are an authoritarian ruler, you have one problem. When you get too worked up, your head stops working. That's what Congress exists for in America. Can you imagine, Dasha, if there were no Congress in America, nuclear missiles would have already fallen on Moscow.
Brilliant analysis from Oleksandr Demchenko, as always. Friends, Alexander and I meet every week on my YouTube channel, Dasha Schastliva, so please like this video. The Sasha plus Dasha format is working, and write a few kind words in the comments to support our tandem. Let us know where you're watching from, share your location in the comments. Sasha and I work for an audience all around the world, so every comment and every subscription is priceless to us. Top analyst, Oleksandr Demchenko. Sasha, thank you so much, and as always, see you again soon.